I am lucky enough to be joined by Alek Manoah, rookie sensation from the Toronto Blue Jays, former West Virginia standout, all around good guy, lots of positive energy. You will love watching him pitch. And he also had one of the filthiest pitches of the year. So without further ado, here is the man, Alek Manoah. You had that, what I've considered maybe the filthiest pitch this season, that slider that I think it was Mejia you hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing looked like it was fake. Like it looked like it was a CGI pitch. But your slider's kind of been that way this season. Like it's like a whole nother level of filth. It looks like I compared you to, I don't, this is like before your time, but Dave Stieb, who was a legendary slider pitcher for the Blue Jays back in the day. Just, you know, you watch those pitches and you've never seen anything move like that. You kind of do the same thing. And did you know it when you threw that? And do you feel like that pitch has gone to a whole nother level?
Yeah. So in college, actually, I think you know this.
Yeah.
This might go on for kind of long, but stay with me. So in college, I go to the Cape and I'm like, man, I'm playing against the best of the best in the country. And, you know, I'm grateful to be here. But I don't, like I told you, I don't just want to be here. I want to stand out on this field and I want to make it seem like I don't even belong on this field with these guys. Like I'm that much better. And I was like, you know what? How can I do that? Right now, I just have a really good fastball, you know, mid to upper 90s. I got, you know, my sinker that's mid to upper 90s as well, and it moves. So I got that going for me. I need something else. The changeup sucks. All right. That's not going to get me to where all right, breaking ball. I need a breaking ball. So I'm looking, you know, I've been following your account since before the t-shirts. And, man, I ran across a video of Chris Sale talking about, or Betances talking about his cutter, you know? So I'm like, okay, so I have a ball in my hand. I start to feel, you know, the grip. I'm like, man, the main thing is feeling comfortable with it and then playing with it from there. You know, I'm like, man, that feels really comfortable. So then I start throwing it. I'm throwing like 91 mile an hour. They're cutters. I'm like, man, I need a breaking ball, not a cutter. You know, how can I make this bigger? But I really like this grip. The way God works is I'm on Twitter, and now the following week, Chris Sale was talking about his slider and how he moves his thumb to manipulate his slider, right? So it's not the same grip, but he's just talking about his thumb. So I'm like, okay, hold on. But what if I grab this grip that feels really comfortable and manipulate the thumb the way I wanted to, and then figure it out? So I started throwing, some were 90 still, but, you know, more of this instead of just this. And then some were 86 like this. And I was like, okay, that's the one. So that the more I threw it, just the better it got. And then I was able to lead the Cape in strikeouts. And I think it was because of that, you know, that and then the heater. So then throughout college and all that stuff, it was just continuing to develop, you know, that trust with that pitch, throwing it in counts, any count, knowing the thumb manipulation where I want to throw it. And then the biggest thing for me is visualizing with the catcher's body, you know, where I see it breaking, you know, and where I want it to start and then finish, you know. So sometimes it's really not even the grip. It's like muscle memory. You know, you stare at the hitter, you see his front elbow and you're like, okay, I want him to buckle here. So I'm going to start at his front elbow, but I want to finish it at the catcher's hip, right? So it's like I'm kind of visualizing and drawing lines in my head, right? And then my body, I'm very visual. So my body is able to kind of reenact that. And then my body, the muscle memory knows what I need to do to get it to do those different shapes. So that development and coronavirus gave me a lot of time to really get pristine with everything in my arsenal. So being able to get that and then that visualization with it, I think going into spring training was the biggest thing for me, because now I have the really good feel for it. And now I can visualize, you know, hey, literally what I wanted to do. If I wanted to start at your elbow and finish here, or do I want to start at your hip and kind of just finish inside right here, you know, like this? Or do I want to start down the middle? Hey, you got to strike and then hit you in the front foot, you know? So there's different variations of that slider. And my favorite part is everybody on Twitter under your thing, are they sticky checking?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So
Doesn't that make you feel good? Like to know
it
that
makes me feel like, I know there's a lot of pitchers and that have used it, and I think we're past that BS, whatever. I'm just thank the Lord every day that I've never needed to use any of that stuff. And I've actually had guys tell me like, hey, what do you use for that slider? And I'm like, well, here's my grip. And they're like, well, what else do you use? That's it. You know, I don't know what else to tell you. And they're like, man, you know how much nastier that thing can be with a little stick? Like guys in the offseason stuff, I'm like, hey, listen, we're not getting down that road. I don't need it. And I'm not gonna lie with you, I tried it in a bullpen in the offseason, and I'm like, okay, yo, you know, this is what you guys are doing. All right, let's see. All right, you know, throw a little tack on there, and I threw a slider that almost hit me in the foot. Just couldn't let go of the ball. And I went and washed my hands, and I said, hey, you know what? I'd rather be able to throw this thing in any count wherever I want than have a really nasty pitch, but I don't know where it's going. You know, and I didn't want to go through the whole. And to be honest with you, dude, like I told you, being genuine and who you are is what makes you really good. I am too big to be sneaking around or you know, trying to touch little spots. I'm like, fuck, you know, do I have enough? They're blatantly honest that I'm cheating, and I'm just like, dude, I don't even want to risk
like wiping it off. Oh, I got too much on me. Let's go take
I throw it at my foot, and I'm like, shit, too much. You know, I'm like, I think we're past it where we can kind of laugh at it. You know, every pitcher in the league's got a new glove now, and everybody's good. So it's a new, fresh slate. But yeah, I think it's like one of those things where when guys are asking me what kind of stick I'm using, I'm like, man, that's a really good pitch. And some of the camera angles too, like in college and stuff like that, we don't have that good camera angle. I'm like, oh, well, it's moving a little bit, you know, but then you get the camera angle in Buffalo or in Tampa where it's like right behind home plate and you can see everything. It's like, man, that thing is moving. It's like, man, that thing is moving.
We assume players are robots sometimes, like, oh, you should just throw your slider more because it has this profile. And the game isn't played. The hitters aren't robots. Pitchers aren't robots. Fielders aren't robots.
Yeah.
Maybe umpires someday will be robots.
Rob, stop. Stop.
No,
stop.
but
I'm just gonna give you my only input on that. Okay, is I'm old school about it. So I do believe in baseball. Sometimes you got to let baseball be baseball. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes there's an umpire that stands right behind the pitcher's mound and he's blocking the shortstop's view. You know, hey, can you move over a little bit? That's a part of baseball. Sometimes there's balls that hit the umpire. Should have been routine plays. Like, oh shit, it hit the umpire. He didn't see it. Boom, it hit him. That's part of baseball. You know, in my perspective, nowadays, I feel like this generation, we try and control everything. And we want to make everything perfect, but nothing in this life is perfect except God. And it'll only be perfect in heaven. So for me, it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do everything that I can to be as good as I'm going to be. And if the umpire calls a ball or a strike, that's his problem. From there on out, like, whatever, you know? And I know there's a lot of pitchers out there that's like, dude, this guy's an idiot. Some of these umpires are terrible. And I agree. I've had games where umpires miss 11 calls. Like 11 out of 90 pitches is a big percentage, you know? So, and I'm forced to throw different kinds of pitches now or put in different counts. Like, it sucks, but I was growing up where it's like, hey, that's baseball. And like I told you, that my mom's mentality, what she put into me, it's like, hey, that's baseball. Keep going. Keep going. Hey, he didn't call it. What are you going to do? You're going to cry out here? No, you got to make the next pitch, you know?
I think that is a perfectly great way of looking at it. To me, so I kind of straddle both things. Like I can understand, like the human element's part of sports.
Yeah.
Now we do have the sport is faster and pitchers are nastier than they've ever been. And you do have some older guys that maybe don't see the ball all that great. Like give them like, to me, I don't think I should be sitting at home and second guessing the umpire necessarily. So if you gave them an earpiece, if the ball's clearly in the strike zone, give them a little beep that says, hey, that's it. And they can overrule it. Like they can overrule it if they want to. I don't think computers are always right either. So you should give them the ability to overrule it if some pitch looks terrible or just barely clips the strike zone.
Well, I have an idea.
Okay, let's hear it.
Maybe I can throw on here into the world, and hopefully somebody can make it happen and give me a big percentage of it, right?
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to make you money.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw it on here, and this is gonna be like my patent in case anybody ever does something. I'm the first one that came up with it.
I'm a lawyer, remember, so I can help.
All right, so here we go. So I think umpires, and I remember I haven't thought about everything with this idea, but for me, it's a great idea. So you know how when you're driving, you can nowadays you can see the speedometer floating in the air on your dashboard, and if you have an older car, you don't know what that's like, but like 2017s, 18s, 19s, like most of those like newer models, it throws that display on the dashboard. So what I'm thinking is that there's something that has to reflect for that to happen, for that display. So what if we put a shield on every umpire's mask, right, that can reflect as they're looking over the plate, that little box that we all see at home. And hey, it's not a robot because there's going to be movement and but it's an idea. It's a general idea of where the strike zone is. And if you miss, whatever you missed, you're human, you're not a robot, but we know that you have the best general idea. And if you want to screw a player, we're going to know.
Yeah,
we're going to know that you're screwing them on purpose because we know you got some help. All right. And if there's a place that's clearly in the plate, you're going to be able to clearly see it's in the zone, So I think maybe something, off the side. Man, did I freeze there?
Yeah, you're fine now.
Okay. Yeah, I think something off like on the side or something that can kind of give them, and I don't know. I think that's something that's a pretty good idea.
I think that's a pretty good idea. Like I'm not gonna lie. I think that's.
I'm sure there's some cons to it. I'm sure there's gonna be a ton of people like, well, that's not gonna work or this or that. But I hope there's just one person out there that reaches out to me in the technology world that knows how to put this to life, and we'll can make it happen.
We'll do it. We call it the Manoah vision. No, I think that's a good idea. Like to me, just give them a tiny bit of help. I'm not saying go with whatever the robot says. I'm saying I don't think it's fair that fans can second guess you and you're not given the best technology. Everything else, like if you as a player, if there was something that made you better and was legal, you'd probably do it.
I'm pitching against the Rays. I got 2 strikes on them and you get a swing, right? It was against the Rays, and Margot, I'm pretty sure, check swung. And it was obvious, like really bad. And I'm like, yeah, he did. And I'm starting to hop off the field, with my energy. And I'm like, let's go. And Joe West is at first base, right? And I have a ton of respect for Joe West, because not many people can do what he's done for as long as he's done, whether, there's opinions, whether he's good or bad, whatever, that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's still Joe West.
Legend, right? I think he's been there forever.
It's still Joe West, So he's at first base. I mean, this was obvious, right? No swing. I'm like, okay, he might not have swung, whatever. Keep pitching. I think I either got him out or whatever the case may be. Like 2 batters later, same exact thing happened. I'm talking about, Rob, listen, this bat, I saw the head of it from the pitcher's mouth. Like I saw the head of the bat. Like for sure he swung, okay? And I'm only saying this because I went back and checked and he for sure swung, right? So when he did that, once again, my energy was to end an inning. I'm like, let's go, let's go. And as I'm running in the dugout, is Joe West. So I look at first base and I'm like, I live for those things right there. That's a legend breaking me into baseball. That's a legend letting me know, like, hey, you got him, but come on, let's see what you got. Let's see what you got. Can you do it without my help? And you know what? Like, I live for those moments, and you gotta have a set on you to live for those moments, because there's a lot of guys that are like, well, I made the pitch already. Like, now I gotta make another pitch. And I'm just like, well, I got the other pitch in there. I'll make it. I can make the damn pitch. So I just feel like, and that's a great story, and I tell all my friends that story.
I love it.
That's Joe West, man. Yeah. Like whether they think he's good or bad, and I don't know. My perspective on him is he's a legend, and sometimes you got to get broken into the game of baseball, man. Like that's baseball. You know, it is what it is. You know.
And I think that that's probably the message is also, hey, it's not a strike until I call it a strike, young man. And if you're going to go jump it up there, showing me up, I'm just like, I've been around too long and I'm going to break you in the right way. And now you always have that story. Like you have the story of Joe West, who'll probably be in the Hall of Fame someday.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, breaking you into the game, and then you'll have that story to pass on to other players, which is the beauty of baseball. Like that's the history of the game, and that's the part I love, and I don't think you can lose. 100% agree with you.
Yeah. And we definitely aren't going to be able to put a robot at first base. So
yeah, exactly.
So we're still going to lose some of those calls.
That.
We're still stuck there, Rob. We're going to lose some of those calls.
I am a huge fan of what you do. Like, two different things. Like you've checked both the boxes because I love having pitchers pitch with emotion and I love nasty stuff. So those are like two things. You give me that and we're all cool. And you click both of those boxes. Like, have you always been a guy that plays with a lot of emotion?
Yeah. I mean, I really love baseball, you know, I really love baseball and I just like to go out there and just play, you know, and I think there's been times in my career where, you know, I think that's always been one thing that, you know, coaches try and, you know, preach on me is like, hey, listen, you know, let's just make it about baseball, or, you know, things like that. And there was actually a game in college where I struck out like 13 and had a meeting with a head coach the day after, which he was our pitching coach. And we would go over, you know, the outings. And, you know, usually after you strike out 13, you feel pretty good about the outing. And he was kind of just like, a little sour, and I was kind of just like, hey, what's going on? What did I do wrong? And just like, hey, man, you know, you're going to be pitching in the big leagues soon. And you think when you strike out Giancarlo Stanton, you're going to mother F him all the way to the dugout? He's like, you can do that against Kent State, but you think you're going to do that against Stanton? And I kind of just looked at him and I was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, well, yeah, that'd be pretty sick, you know? And then in the front of my head, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to do that, you know? So that's just an example of like coaches always just trying to keep me within myself. And I think the real thing is pitchers throw their best when they're amped up, their adrenaline is through the roof, and they're just, you don't have to think about who you want to be. You're just playing baseball, you know? And when you have a team that lets you just play baseball, you don't have to think about your reaction. You don't have to think about your emotion. You just are allowed to be who you want to be and who you are. And that's what makes you best. So if you have to think about who you want to be and how you have to act, and you have to think about how to get hitters out, that's just a lot to think about, you know? So I also think the biggest thing is with all that adrenaline is like, why don't we just use that and tunnel it and use it to like, I mean, like Liam Hendricks, for example, that guy is amped up every time he's out there. And I've had pitching coaches over the years tell me like, hey, you got to calm down. Like, you know, you're going to pitch best when you're calm and this and that. It's like, no, you're wrong. I'm going to pitch best when I'm absolutely amped up, mother effing everybody, but I know how to control my body where it's not all over the place, but that's when it's working the best. So for me, the biggest thing is, you know, I've had coaches over the years that have kind of just like all the craziness and then just brought it like right here. He's done a great job with like my mental mindset of just keeping everything right here. And for me, just really blessed to be on a team that just allows me to be who I'm allowed to be. And I don't even have to think about who I have to be and getting hitters out, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's kind of a newer trend. And I actually talked to Scherzer about this at the All-Star game. I was like, Max, you're like an OG psychopath. Like he is one of the original guys who would do all that stuff. And because traditionally it's always been like, no, show them like, act like you've been there before, be more robotic. And I think it did a whole generation or multiple generations of pitchers a disservice because like you can pitch that way. Sure. You can be a Tom Glavine, a Kyle Hendricks, a Corey Kluber. You can be any of those guys and not show emotion. But there are also those guys that have to let it out. And why not be yourself?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is also like being genuine, you know? So like if you're a guy like Tom Glavine and you're trying to pitch like Max Scherzer, that's not going to help you. you know, but if you're Max Scherzer trying to pitch like Tom Glavine, that's definitely not going to help you either, you know? So I think, you know, with Max, when he gets on the mound, his presence and his antics, they all go together, you know? He doesn't get on the mound with a weak presence and then try and like be that little puppy that roars. You know, it's like, hey, you're still a little puppy, relax. No, he's gets on the mound like a bulldog and he barks like a bulldog. So he's a bulldog, you know? It's like, all right, we're not messing with that guy. But I think like the biggest thing is like just being genuine, just go be who you are, like whoever that is, like just go be it. And that's what's going to make you the best, you know? And that's what I've learned, you know, everybody's kind of just like, oh, well, you know, you had that one really good year, West Virginia, like what helped you put it all together? It's like, well, I was able to figure out who I wanted to be. And then I was able to go be it. You know, I didn't have to think. I was just able to go be it. And hey, you know what? If we got issues, you're probably on the other side because most of my teammates we're on the same team, we're on the same side, and I'm rooting for them 24/7 and all the positivity that I bring. So I've always loved that statement where you love him when he's on your team, but man, you hate him when he's on the other team. Like I feel like players like that are the best. Like for me, every time a coach said that about me, I was just like, well, you know what? I'm doing my job right.
Exactly.
Yeah, doing my job right. That's the only people I need to like me are my teammates.
Were you ever concerned, like going to the major leagues, that you would have to be something that you weren't? Because I know that, I mean, the Blue Jays have a playing personality and it's a lot of fun, but like going to the wrong team, I mean, there are teams, I think, that try to stamp that out of people. Did you ever think you'd have to be something different? Or did you just say, I'm going to go out there and be myself because I have to be?
Well, I mean, you know, the situation, I would say, you know, I got invited to big league spring training this year, and you know, we got some guys, you know, Springer and Simeon and Robbie Ray and you know Hyun-Jin Ryu, you know, and all those guys, and I kind of just told myself before going into spring training, hey, I got invited, you know, I didn't ask to come, I got invited, I'm supposed to be here, I'm meant to be here, let's act like it, you know. So first day I got to camp, you know, I'm saying what's up to everybody. I'm coming up, I'm introducing myself to everybody. Like I'm asserting myself like, hey, I'm going to be here. You know, I was invited, you know, so I'm allowed to be here. I'm allowed to be who I'm allowed to be, you know. And I think the best part about me doing that is the team's reaction was never like, oh, this guy thinks, you know, like who is this guy or anything like that. Because I think they felt the genuineness in all of my actions, you know. And then going to AAA, I mean, I was the youngest guy in the AAA locker room, you know, and we had 3 World Series champs, you know, Christian Colon, Tyler White, and Carl Edwards Jr. So I had great experience there. And they loved my personality, the way I was in the locker room. They loved the way I pitched as well. And they all told me the same exact thing. Hey, a lot of teams try and change you when you get to the show. The show will change you. Don't let any of that happen. Just be you, go play your game, and don't worry about everything else. Don't worry that it's all going to fall into place. Just be you. Like, okay, hey, you know what? I got guys telling me just be me. They're reasserting what I've already told myself. Like, hey, just go be you, you know? So then, you know, you get to the show and everybody is just, it's about the environment you're in too, because if you go to a team that doesn't allow that or doesn't accept that, or there's a bunch of old veteran guys that want to do it their way, like there's going to be some conflict there, you know. But we have the perfect mix of guys. Our older guys are amazing. You know, our veteran guys, like they're the best, and then you know our young guys we're just able to be us, you know. So I think that mix of everyone just allowing to be who you want to be. Nobody really talks trash about each other. We all kind of just love the way everybody is who they are allowed to be.
You mentioned doing your best for your family. And one of my favorite moments of the season was your mom crying in your major league debut in the stands. And like every parent, like my kid's at Georgia Tech and is on the baseball team there. And everybody
Congrats on that, by the
way. Thanks.
That's awesome. Georgia Tech, he must be smarter than Kyle.
He does really, like, he does better. Like I didn't, until I got to law school, like I really didn't study. I was a terrible student in college and somehow got to law school and did extremely well. in law
Yeah.
school. But like he got it earlier and he just does well. Like I don't understand it. Like he was always, I think he's a rule follower, so he knows that he has to do this and do that to get good grades. So
Right. Yeah.
that's the way he rolls. But seeing your like that, every parent on social media felt the same way. They were like, that's the way they would feel watching their kid out there. And I think it was just a really good, genuine moment. And I was wondering, like, how much did that mean to you? How much I clearly meant a lot to your mom. What were the emotions of that?
It was pretty surreal, Rob, to be honest with you. It's still really surreal to me every day. And I think that's what keeps me working, you know, as hard as I can every day and keeps me extremely grateful is the odds were stacked against me and my family. And we've been able to persevere through anything thrown at us, anything. My mom taught me that resilience. She taught me to never give up. It doesn't matter the circumstance. If you work hard, things are going to fall your way. Just keep working hard. And when things don't fall your way, keep going. That they're eventually going to fall your way. And that moment at Yankee Stadium was just a buildup of a lifetime of adversity and like, wow, like we're here. You know, I'm not going to say we made it because I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but we're here. Like, a Manoah stepped foot on a big league mound. Like that's, you know, like my brother called me and he's like, hey, look, man, if you don't do anything from here on out, man, I just want to let you know I'm proud of you. You know, like if nothing ever happens from here on out and this is all you do, like I'm proud of you. And, you know, for a lot of families, it's like, oh, he just got to the big leagues, you know, like, but for my family, everything we've been through, it's like, that's the biggest step. It's like, that's big time. You know, you put our last name on a big league field and nobody can take you away from that, you know? And honestly, there's a better story in spring training. My first outing in spring training, facing the Yankees again. And it's in Tampa. So my whole family, you know, goes to Tampa, first big league spring training outing, whatever. I come out of the bullpen behind, you know, Simeon. And when I get in there, I remember I think there was a runner on first base. And I always do like my mental prep routine. You know, I always look somewhere in the stands, like up along the third base line. And I would just look off into there, get my mind right, breathe, and then lock back in. And I had a runner on first with Aaron Hicks hitting. And I was going in a battle with this guy, just battle. 3-2, 3-2, 2-2, just battle. Fouling off pitches. And first off, that's a dream come true alone for me. It's like, wow, I'm going to war with Aaron Hicks right now. But as I'm doing that and I look into this, you know, to that spot to get back into my routine, I see my mom with a video camera, like right by the dugout. And I usually look higher up, but for some reason I look like right there. And she's with a video camera and she's just, come on, you know? And and as I'm staring at her, I'm like, damn, come on. You know, and we kind of had a moment, you know, where like, I feel like we were staring at each other and she was like, come on, baby, you got this. And I was like, come on. And then I ripped the backdoor slider and punched them out. And that moment for me, I told my mom after the game, I was like, Mom, that was like one of the best moments I've ever had in my entire baseball career, just because I'm in not the big leagues, but I'm in big league spring training, like the biggest stage to this point of my life. And it literally felt like we were at the backyard or at a travel ball game and you wher right there with me. And I just thought that was a really amazing moment. But yeah, like my whole family being there in New York, it was kind of surreal. It was amazing.